Well, I'm not coming on here. All right. So
Go live as well whenever you're ready, and then you'll be live on Facebook.
go live is where?
On
Oh,
the
here.
Yeah, but you'll be live on Facebook, so
Oh,
remember that
I
when you
had
go
to be
live.
ready.
Yes.
So I'm just recording myself here, just hanging out with myself. Okay. Well, we're ready then, I guess. It's now or never. Now or never. I don't have any.
Oh,
Oh, are they over
Artie needs to make sure that he puts those back for you.
here? So we're going to be watching this on Facebook.
Not yet. Put the headphones in there. They go right there, man. No. Right.
Yeah, I can feel it. Okay.
Cool.
But
When you go live, then
it's a
you'll
double. It's a double check thing.
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say because I just put listen to myself. I'm talking to myself and I don't hear anything. So can I hear myself? Oh, hey, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. So you sure you don't want to be on my show today, Kurt?
You're good. You're live.
I'm right. Well, we're live on Facebook here. So, hey guys, I'm Angie. This is Riding the Wave with Angie and Kelly. And suspiciously, there's no Kelly. And it's just me today. So join me, and we're going to be live in just a few minutes. So I'll kind of explain to that. But welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. And we're going to be live on the radio in just about 25 seconds. So I'm going to, you'll see me like scrambling a little bit today while I'm doing everything by myself. So it'll be exciting. So, who do we have on the show today? Is going to be an exciting surprise. Oh, so that'll be really, really cool. So, I'm going to do all my radio stuff for just a second. Hi, welcome everybody. This is Angie from Riding the Wave with Angie and Kelly, and we are live right here on 99.5 KHEA FM radio in Lamarck, Texas, and I am alone today. Does anybody suspiciously notice that there's no Kelly here with me? And so Kelly has injured her back, and we send out our thoughts and prayers to her today. I hope that you feel so much better, and life is so much more fun when you're here with me, Kelly. But for today, it's just me. We have a really exciting guest that we're going to have on in a little while. We're going to have Slade Lewis, who was our Lunar Rendezvous King this year, and we just had the Lunar Rendezvous Coronation Ball this weekend, so we're going to be talking with him about that. He's also the owner of Lewis Jewelers, so we'll talk a little bit about his involvement in the community. So I just want to see how is everybody's weekend, everybody. We had a lot of cool stuff. I did the Lunar Rendezvous Ball. I went this Saturday night. It's at the beautiful Galveston Convention Center. The beautiful girls in their white ball gowns and all of the guys in their tuxedos and the lieutenants in their dinner jackets. Just a really gorgeous evening, decorated beautifully. A wonderful job done by Michelle Holland, who was the general chairman this year. She's in charge of all of the events, and it was just a beautiful festival season with a lot of really neat events, a lot of money raised. I'll be excited to see kind of what money was raised. I'm going to sneak into my phone here and cheat a little bit, but just so that you have some idea, Lunar Rendezvous raises over $100,000 every year, and they give away all that money to different charities, different art events, lots of really, really great events in our city. They did Big Brothers and Big Sisters. They've done the Butler Longhorn Museum. They give money to like Clear Creek Education Foundation. Sometimes they do like a one-time contribution to somewhere like the Barry Houston Ballet. Say they need new stage lights or something like that. They may donate to something for the arts like that. I looked at this metric that they have here, and in 2005 they go $138,000 to various charities, including scholarships that they give every year to some CCISD students. If we go over in the years, 117,000. $124,000, $154,000 in 2011. So much money that they pour back into the community. Back in 1965, they Maggie Plum DeNike and some friends had a party celebrating the rendezvous in space of two of the, don't get me to lying here. I'm going to say it's like Saturn 6 and 7, and they rendezvoused in space, and they really just kind of tested to see once they do the next project how close they could get together. And I think they got within like 3 feet or something, so they didn't dock. They just practiced. Well, they had this party here in the Clear Lake area because it was the beginning of NASA, the beginning of all of these Apollo projects coming up, and they just wanted to have fun. Well, after the party, they were like, we got some movers and shakers here. I think maybe it'd be really cool if we raised some money. And so they incorporated. So in 1965, they incorporated the Lunar Rendezvous Society or organization. And so it wasn't until the next year that they actually had the first festival. So even though 1965 is the start, 1966 is when they had their first festival. They chose princesses from the then only Clear Creek High School, and they became princesses for the festival. They had a ball at the end. The first queen in 1960 wasn't crowned until 1967, and her name was Donna Weir in 1967. The first king did not happen until 1969, I think, and that was Brigadier General Royal Hatch. So the tradition of having a king that was a community giver, somebody that was big in the community, that gave of their time and was also outstanding in their field, began way back there in 1969. So today we're going to have this year's king. And we're going to be talking to Slade Lewis, and he's the Lunar Rendezvous King this year. And we're going to talk to him in about 5 minutes and talk about how you become king, what the duties are, and kind of what his experience has been. And we're also, find out why maybe we chose him as king. What's he been doing? So that'll be really exciting. So we're live on Facebook, y'all. Write in, tell me what you're doing this weekend, what's been going on, what we have going on coming up in the future week, so that we can always kind of follow through and know maybe what we want to talk about, so that we're keeping the pulse on the community and what you want to hear about. So I'm really missing Kelly today. It's a lot of fun to have her, and I'm so sad that she's not feeling well today. But I'm going to be going out to get our guest, Slade Lewis. I'm going to be turning on a song here. We're going to listen to, let's see. It's bad when you can't read. Vertical Worship, Yes, I Will. And we'll be back in just a few minutes with the King of Lunar Rendezvous, Slade Lewis. Gives me somebody to talk to. I mean, you think I can talk. talk right here. You think I would be able to just sit here by myself and talk the whole time, but okay.
I'm assuming I put these on, right?
Yeah. You're way ahead of me. You're way ahead of me. All right. So you are this one. Can you talk into your microphone?
Test 1 2 1 2.
Fabulous. What? We're just listening to me talk to him?
Yeah, and your mic wasn't on for Facebook. Just apologize.
Well, at least Facebook can hear me. We, because I had Kurt's mic on, which is over there. So, Kelly and I had radio shows with producers, so we're not used to doing our own stuff.
Gotcha.
So usually Kelly runs cameras and I run the board, but always when there's something we forget to do, we may forget to record or whatever. So
you're getting better every week. That's all that matters.
So we are live on Facebook, so say hi to everybody out there.
What's up, FB?
So we are going to go back in about a minute and a half, and then we'll be back on the FM.
Okay.
So luckily we chatted a little bit the other night, so we have a little bit more time now. So I just kind of keep in mind, what you've been doing, kind of your community service, that kind of stuff. I tried to find the history of the Queen's robe
Oh my
on
gosh.
Facebook, and I couldn't find it. So I was like, I wish I'd have found that, because it'd be kind of an interesting thing to talk about, but unfortunately,
Well, we can make it up.
we go.
We can make an interesting story and see if it
We
sticks.
would. Let's
right?
see, and then we'll see how many people write in and tell us the real thing.
Exactly.
They're like, but I'm gonna say something like it's got 9 million stitches done by, every charitable organization designed their own quadrant of the.
Yeah, well, it's fixing to change. That's my goal, is for them to get a new one. So I think I'm gaining some ground on that.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have 25 seconds.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn your microphone on, so don't say anything. All right. Well, we're back on Riding the Wave with Angie and Kelly on 99.5 FM KHEA radio. And while you were gone listening to that fabulous song, and if you were on Facebook, they didn't magically appear. But now we magically have a guest. So I have the fabulous Slade Lewis with me here today. Thanks for coming and visiting us. I keep wanting to say us.
My pleasure.
I'm just going to keep saying us, like Kelly is here, because she's here with us in spirit.
Emotionally, absolutely.
Yeah. And she's so sad that she's not here, because she loves you. So y'all have some history, like 20 years of history.
Exactly, at least.
Yeah. You and I have like 30 minutes of history. So I did get to meet you the other night at Lunar Rendezvous Ball, because you were the king of Lunar Rendezvous.
Correct.
How does it feel to be king?
Embarrassing is probably the first word that comes to my mind.
You didn't say it's good to be king. It's good to be king.
I wish I could say that. If I had any control whatsoever and anybody listened to me, it would be a little bit different. No, but it was an amazing experience, something that I never expected or even was on my radar. So it was pretty cool, actually.
I think it wasn't on your radar because you're too young.
Well, that as well. Yeah, so the Kings. It's Lunar Rendezvous is just a great organization, and one of the things that they do, which is pretty cool, is they let the prior kings pick the new king, and they don't tell anybody. So I get a phone call from Gene Hollier, and Gene, if you don't know Gene in our area, then you've been living underneath the rock, right? Who
doesn't know Gene?
So he's amazing. He's done everything. He's been on TV, and
he's been on Magnum PI.
Exactly.
Like 40 times.
At least.
What I think is funny is that Gene Ollier played many different characters, like little, characters on Magnum PI. Did nobody ever catch on?
Nobody caught on. He said he grew a mustache, and then he would take it off, and then they'd put a hat on him, and nobody caught it. I think in today's date with Facebook and social media, that probably somebody would catch it.
I know.
But-
I'm tempted to. I think it's all like on Hulu or Netflix or something.
I'm
Magna
sure.
PI. We need to go back and
You're
then
like-
just try and catch how many episodes we can find, Gene.
Yeah, I think
like
he got killed off 40 times.
Well, like that Where's Waldo game,
Right.
Like Where's Gene? We should just and then what is that game that the kids ran around and found all of the Pokemon something, and so we could do that. We could have people write in. Oh, I saw him on episode 35 of season 4.
Exactly. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I mean, he died, I think, at least 40 times or something like that. It was just crazy.
It's a
and
good
then
game.
he's just like the head of Houston Livestock and Rodeo. I mean, he's just
The speakers committee.
owner.
Yeah.
I mean,
he
owns
does.
it from-
He does owns the whole
I
committee.
mean, I identify that organization with Gene.
Yeah.
So just a great guy. And he was calling, and usually when Gene's calling, it's about the livestock show and rodeo, and I'm not thinking lunar.
Right.
And so he called me a few times, left me a few messages. I finally get back to him, and he was like, "Hey, we want to talk to you about being king of Lunar Rendezvous." And like I told you, I was like, "Well, you mean my dad? You're looking for my dad. You're not looking for me, And he was like, "No, we're looking for you." And I'm like, "But I'm not like 70 plus," because it seems like a lot of kings were a lot
Right.
older. But no, they're doing some research. There's been some kings younger than me, and
so since
I'm not the
Saturday you
youngest.
discovered you weren't the
Yeah,
youngest?
I'm not the youngest.
I have a list
No.
of them. I wonder who was young. No.
So, and on the other side is there's super accomplished, and I don't look at myself as super accomplished. So that's the other thing.
Now I do have to break in on there. On Saturday night, there's kind of well, not kind of. There's a presentation, and there's like 70 princesses now. There was about maybe 10 lieutenants.
At least.
And then at the end of it, it culminates with the crowning of the new court. But before they do that, they have the old court, which consists of a queen alternate, a captain, and then the king is kind of like both. Like you kind of reign from when they announce you in like May or something.
Yep.
Like until the next May when they announce a new king.
Correct.
And the queen, they've been reigning since the last July through July. So the king kind of spans both courts.
Correct.
But so they start out by having the lieutenant, and he comes out and they list his arm length long of accomplishments, and he is a newly graduated senior from high school.
Right. Correct. Like,
you're kind of like,
and it goes on forever.
You're like, oh, so they had to write cliff notes all the way up to
And
their
he's
shoulder.
18.
Yeah, he's 18. I was like, so when you realize that they weren't talking about someone that's a grown man, and I apologize. I'm sure he feels like a grown man, but he's an 18-year-old man. So then they get to the queen alternate, and her list of accomplishments is just as long or longer. And then the queen is just as long or longer. And then they get to the king, and just before they announce the new court. And I have to say, your list of accomplishments was an arm and a half long. So you can't say, I don't feel accomplished, because you are quite the accomplished man. And I think that the main thing, they start way back to where you like your sports in college. And
Right. Correct.
And if y'all are watching on Facebook Live, Slade looks like he's 22. I think he may even act like he's 22.
Like 12. 12 is my goal.
12. And we would have to default to Kelly on that to ask her, but
She would agree.
but he is not. He is 40 something. Right?
Correct.
We're not gonna put you on the spot. But so he looks very young, acts very young. He is not quite as old as a lot of the kings, but
Agreed.
you are a grown man.
Well, these guys.
I just got a message from a Cindy that says he is not a grown man. No, just kidding.
That would be my wife.
Oh, yeah,
correct.
yes, there you go. No.
She would know. She would definitely know. So no, but when I look at the kings, we're looking at past colonels of our military, past astronauts, guys that are super accomplished,
Right.
that have done life-changing things for us, and how we live today. ultimately I sell things that you don't need. That's our business is Lewis Jewelers. And so
Diamonds
exactly.
and gold.
So, I mean, yes, we're accomplished.
Wait,
in
did you say I don't need?
I
Wait,
did say
I'm
that.
sorry.
You ultimately do not need the
I need
things
to,
we sell.
Mike, my boyfriend, you're not listening to this. I do need diamonds. Do need them. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So, no, but it is, in our industry, we're accomplished. I'm very competitive when it comes to anything. But ultimately, when I look at, the United States as a whole and what have we accomplished as, a store, or what do we do on a daily basis, it's nothing compared to these prior kings, right? These guys are, going to space, exploring space, going up in rocket ships and fighting our enemies and protecting our borders. And those are like awesome people.
Well, now, see, but when they come home and they've been away from their wives and they have to make it up to them with jewels, you were there.
We are definitely there.
You were there to make their wives happy.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, that's an important thing. No, I think that the reason that you are so important, I mean, Lewis Jewelers is a cornerstone here in the Bay Area. Y'all have been here for how many years?
Since 1981.
Yeah.
So my mom started the business with my dad, but kind of crazy story. She wanted a clothing store, but they didn't know anybody in the clothing business, but they knew somebody in the jewelry business.
Huh.
And so they opened a jewelry store because they knew a guy, right? And so
I know a guy.
exactly. So they opened a store, and within 6 months, my dad was promoted to president of his company. Never worked except for one weekend, thank goodness.
Oh, no.
Because we probably wouldn't be open today if he worked every weekend. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, since then, my mom really started. Me and my wife started in the year 2000, and then took over the company from there. So we've been extremely blessed. This community has blessed us tremendously. So we feel not obligated. We want to give back, and it's just a luxury for us to do the things like Lunar Rendezvous. It's a great organization that just in today's date and age, what you have with social media is non-human contact. Even though we're on Facebook Live and you can see us and interact with us, it's still not the same as me and you right here in this room, right? Making eye contact.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's what Lunar Rendezvous really teaches all these kids, is how to make eye contact and how to do some proper things that they're going to have to do at some point in their life, and get them ready for the college experience. Because I would say that 99.9% of these kids are going to college somewhere.
Right.
Right. And
right.
so, and a lot of them, I mean, as you saw, we taught them how to bow and curtsy. That was very hard for them to do with people watching, right? And we think that's an easy thing and it comes naturally. For them, it was tough, So I think it just gets them out of their shell and really teaches them how to, go and volunteer. And if you don't know where to go and volunteer or do something, and you saw all the things that they've been doing, if they've gone to old folks' homes and made a spa day for them, which was pretty awesome. And that's their idea that they came up with, which is really cool.
So let's talk about that for a second. So like we said, so there's about 80-ish kids that are involved. They're all between their junior and senior year in high school.
Yep.
They're all in the Bay Area. So they're either Clear Lake, Clearbrook, Clear Springs, Clear Falls High School. They also can be from Lutheran South Bay Area Christian, Clear Horizons, and Clear... What's the other?
Springs.
No, Clear Springs should be one of the main ones. I can't remember. But all those clears.
Right.
And then and Friendswood. So those were all added. Back in the day, it was Clear Creek.
Right.
Then it was 20 from Creek and 20 from Lake.
Right.
So then, of course, obviously they added in Brook and then Springs. And then at some point, I think a lot of the women that were involved or the volunteers that were involved had kids at Bay Area Christian and Lutheran South. And they're kind of like, hey, wait,
Exactly.
So they were instrumental in getting in all of those. Clearview, that's other. I will have to say, I had a daughter that graduated from Clearview in and she was the first princess ever from Clearview.
Oh,
so I think that they
nice.
just, that it wasn't on their radar.
Right.
But she's kind of legacy. So
That's cool.
so all of these kids have the opportunity. They apply, and they are chosen from not only their own accomplishments, but they do include kind of their families. They want their families to be involved in the community as well. But these kids, like we were talking about, their accomplishments at such a young age is it's almost inspiring.
It's
just amazing. But so when they're chosen, then when they have to choose a community service project as a group, they get together as a group.
Correct.
And like you're saying, so they did the old folks home. They did a spa day.
Yeah,
That's
which was awesome. They gave Manny panties to all these women, and they probably haven't. Just the energy of a 17, 18-year-old kid coming in. And here are these people confined to really beds and wheelchairs at this moment. Just them coming to visit them brightens up their whole day, right? I don't know if you've ever been a part of that. I mean, it brightens the nurses, it brightens the patients, and they just have a cool time just being around young kids.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, to get their nails done, and I don't
Get a
know
little
if they
spoiled.
Yeah, I think that was awesome. What a great community outreach service, and they chose that. That's no input from any of the volunteers of Lunar. That is something that the only thing the Lunar volunteers did was basically say, hey, these kids are going to be in this group, and these kids are going to be in this group, right? And it's up to them to pick what they wanted to do. And so I think they all picked great things. They all did great services.
It's neat to see, and it's not like this group of kids from Clear Springs High School that have grown up their whole lives together. It's like these kids from Springs and Lake and Creek, and they're all mixed in together. So they have to learn how to get along. They have to come up with something, and they have to execute it, which is really cool. Now I know that the Queen and the captain, they both were on the same team, and they did a project with the League City Animal Shelter that's in a crisis with too many cats.
Right, that's right.
So they were saying that they raised the money and used their own money, and they just bought a bunch of provisions for all the cats so that they could have enough food at the shelters for them. And then they went and played with them too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how awesome is that? It's just and they came up with that themselves. It's not something that anybody led them to. So I think there were 7 different splits. 7 teams, and every team was sensational in what they did. It was just really inspiring, and
I know.
and these kids wouldn't have done that at all if it wasn't for Lunar,
Right.
So it's really cool.
Well, and I know one other one, the Queen Alternate, because none of these are the only kids that I interviewed the other night, obviously. So
Right.
I don't know any of the other projects, but the Queen Alternates group, she said that they went to the one of the local abuse shelters where
Correct.
there's families that are living there, and they had a huge birthday party for the kids.
That's right.
And just made a fun day for the kids. They can forget where they are and what's going on in their lives, and just have a big party and had a lot of fun. And that sounded so fabulous too.
Oh, absolutely. And then they got to meet kids. So you touched on a subject that is really cool, and I think one of the biggest thing Lunar offers is you have you're competing against your rival high school, right? So you think these kids eat and breathe differently from you, right? So what they find out is that they're just like each other, and they can actually get along and compete on the field and in the classroom, but really get together and be friends outside of that. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that Lunar, has to offer is that your crosstown, rival is a human just like you are, and is a person just like you are.
Well, and I think that especially, like you said, some of these kids probably have really been rivals for, maybe there's a bunch of guys out there. I mean, they were football players. I know that the captain, he's a water polo guy, and they're very competitive.
Right.
Because all of those local high schools are always up for state. I mean, they're neck and neck every year. Who's gonna be the best, because they're just so competitive, and then now they're on the same team. And I think that kind of shows society nowadays too. I think like even politically in the United States, we think we're against each other. And we need to remember in the world, we're we're for each other.
Absolutely.
That we for a greater good. I always think it takes both sides.
Yep.
You know, it takes the bleeding hearts, the people that come up with the ideas, and the money people to get it done. You know, you kind of can look at just kind of do that in life and see both sides, put them
Absolutely.
together, not against each other, because then you're going to have an event that's got all of these great things you can't pay for.
Correct.
Or, I have
correct.
all these grandiose ideas, but I can't get them done.
Exactly.
That we need to realize that everybody has their strengths, and that's
Yep.
why we have different opinions and different views of the world. And maybe it's just because you lived on the other side of the freeway from each other,
Right.
But somehow you can come together. I had an organization of high school girls a few years ago, and I mostly started it because I said, you know what? I think all kids want to do good. They want to give. They just don't know where to do it. You know, maybe they don't come from a family that really knew where to give of their talents. And so in order to develop them, they have to know where to go. And so this organization of girls helped them go out, and every year they had to choose what money they raised, what they were going to do with it. And every year I was amazed at what they did. You know, like the first year I think was Hurricane Ike. And so they gave Christmas to families that were flooded in Hurricane Ike and had
Nice.
not, kind of made it out of that. Because, we think about, everybody that has insurance and you're all okay. And well, not all families are like that. So here we had these families that had no Christmas presents for their kids. And here show up these teenage girls with a whole bunch of presents,
Yep.
and it is probably 10 times better for the girls,
Oh, and I'm with you on that.
The family's
Absolutely.
happy.
Yes.
But the girls that learned what they were giving and what they were doing, and maybe they just never saw that side. And I know, like, one year they gave money to families that had a family member that had cancer. And so they paid their bills. It was a Christmas organization. So they paid their bills at Christmas.
Nice.
A lot of people think of giving you Christmas presents, making sure your kids have a bike from the police, the Blue Santa or whatever. But not everybody thinks of taking that pressure off of the parents. And I thought, that was a really good idea.
Absolutely.
But how many of those kids that live in these areas have ever not been able to pay their electric bill?
Right.
How, for them to come up with that, when it's not their history. And so I think maybe those kids that saw that abuse shelter, they see a part of life that's hopefully will never touch them.
Absolutely.
But they still thought, what a great thing that we can do.
Absolutely.
I love that
And
community
that's
project.
exactly where I was going with, they get these rivals, they now become friends, and they go do something like that, where they go to somewhere where they can't identify with these people, or they don't think they can identify with these people at all, and all of a sudden they become friends, and so again, just a great thought to go and give to these kids. And I think it was Bay Area Turning Point is where they went, if I remember right, and that's another great organization that's been around the Bay Area for a very long time, and they do phenomenal things, with women and their kids, and so they went in there and they weren't expecting, they're expecting to, hey, give a gift and kind of just go away. And what they found out is that, man, are they, no matter what problems you have, you go to some place like that, you don't have problems anymore. You realize that the problems that you are stressing over are pretty petty compared to, these kids that are living there. And all of a sudden,
a nightmare.
Exactly. And those kids and parents get out of there. A lot of them, this is not their permanent situation, and so they go on and have great lives with the coaching that they receive from Bay Area Turning Point. So I think they got to see that, because until you're involved with the charity, you can look at a charity, read everything it's about, and think you know about it.
Right.
But when you get involved and you're actually doing stuff, that's when you really learn. And I will say that, we've been a part of Lunar for a very long time, but I've never been this involved. And man, getting involved was, like you said, is more a blessing for me than it was for Lunar, for sure. So I feel like it was more of a one-way street for me. So it's been awesome.
Well, and I think that um, you know, when people look at Lunar, they see kind of the public persona, and they're fun events, and that's one thing that we need to just put out there too. You can raise money. It doesn't always have to be an awful, horrible, no fun event. Most of these events are fashion shows and the golf event and, stuff that people are having fun.
Absolutely.
You see them dressed up to the nines, and maybe you look at the Lunar Rendezvous Ball and you see these girls in their white debutante ball dresses. We talked about their long white gloves and their poofy dresses and the men in tuxedos, and you think, oh, that's kind of a hoity-toity thing.
Right.
And it kind of is.
Absolutely
But
is.
it's a hoity-toity event that raises $150,000,
Right.
to give away, or that's how much they can give away every year. But some people are like, that's so far from removed from me that I have no idea. I could never be a part of that, and it's not going to touch me. And that's not true. That's
Correct.
not true. It's not all rich people that are part of the event. It's involved people.
Correct.
And, I started doing community service a long time ago. Well, my mom, my dad, they're kind of givers, doers anyway. And so, you kind of start off with church giving and that kind of stuff,
Right.
But I was poor. I was a single mom with 3 daughters, and I was like, I don't have any money to give, but I have time.
Right.
So I started giving back and doing things, and I got to be involved in so many very cool things. And, I didn't know where I was going to pay for the next, drill team competition
Right.
thing that was coming up because,
Right.
so I could pay the bills.
Those
That was
are
okay.
more expensive than Lunar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I had 3 of them, 3 of those kids. But, that I think that people look at that and they think that that's all rich people. And like you said, it's not. It doesn't
No.
cost anything to give of your time. It doesn't
Right.
cost anything to give of your heart. And so, and all you do is get back so much. Bay Area Turning Point, Kelly and I just worked together. I produced the fashion show for Bay Area Turning Point in April, and Kelly was one of my models.
Nice.
And we had Michelle Holland, who was the general chairman. A bunch of the women from Lunar Rendezvous were all models in it.
Nice.
And because we were like, we want them to see that even the people that are being the models in it, they're community involved. They're out there. And when they realize, when they sit down and hear the statistics of what those kinds of organizations do, it kind of makes you step back and think, wait, what's going on in my shallow world?
Absolutely.
And all of that. And so when you're giving back, it does so much for you. So much, not like acclaim and, oh, I got seen and that kind of stuff for you.
Right.
It does so much for your heart.
Yep.
And it's contagious.
It is.
So now you've done this. Next year you're going to be going, oh, wow, I have all this time without being in the King. I have to do something else. What else can I give?
Absolutely.
And let's touch on that for just a few minutes. So one of the things that they talked about, obviously, the acclaim of Lewis Jewelers and how y'all were chosen. It was like one of the 100 best jewelry stores in America.
Yeah, with Harper's Bazaar magazine. Yep.
Right. And so that's great. But tell me a little bit about your own community service.
Yeah. So, we're through Lewis Jewelers is where most of our community service comes through. But our biggest one, I'll just tell you the closest one to my heart. We do a lot with schools and churches and Bay Area Turning Point and radio, or the rodeo and livestock rodeo. We do a lot of stuff. But our biggest one is my son was born with a kidney disease. And we took him to Texas Children's Hospital. And, man, we'd only gone to regular hospitals before. We went to Texas Children's Hospital, and it was like Disneyland at a hospital. They made it just so comfortable for him, and for us, it was amazing. And he has since grown out of that, totally 100% cured of that. And but we were like, had such a great experience. We were like, man, this is, how can we give back to this organization that is truly changing and healing kids' lives? And the back scenes, because I've been there so often, man, God comes first there, and they pray like unbelievable. And I think that's one reason why Texas Children's has so many miracles happening on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
There's no coincidence there. But Levi was going through this, and we were like, how can we help out besides just paying our bill, right? And these doctors are amazing. The nurse staff is amazing. And so we talked to the head of the renal department, and we were like, hey, how can we give back? And he goes, we're the most used department in Texas Children's Hospital. Every cancer patient comes through the renal department. Every heart patient comes through the renal department because at some point they need a dialysis. Right. And so, but they're the most underfunded because who wants, talking about kidneys is not sexy, right? And so they don't have a great organization for kidneys. And so we were like, all right, we're just going to, have a silent auction at our anniversary event, and we'll see what we can do. And from that small little idea, we had no grandiose picture of, raising millions of dollars. We have raised, millions of dollars and for them, and it all goes to the renal department.
Do you do it every year?
We do it every year at our store, and we invite our VIP clients, and we, you go to these balls and you have to pay $100, $150, or $400 a ticket for a table or whatever. Ours is free for our clients, right? So we hire an awesome band.
So they can pay more because they didn't pay for the ticket, right?
Yeah, they didn't pay anything for the ticket. We underwrite the whole thing, so if we raise, $100,000, we write a check to Texas Children's Renal Department for $100,000. We don't take anything out of it. So everything on the silent auction, everything on the live auction is underwritten by us or given to us by some of our great partners that we have at the store. So it's just a great cause. We love it. It's our funnest event that we go to, even though it's the hardest event to prepare for, because obviously entertaining people for 4 hours is not an easy task. But we've gotten better and better at that. And then because of that, and we didn't ask for this at all. A couple of years ago, they named the dialysis unit at Texas Children's Hospital Lewis Jewelers Dialysis Unit. So, and that'll last forever. And so we were taken aback by that, so that's really cool,
So obviously you knew that financially you could give back because obviously that's a something that they need. What, as a parent, would have been like a small, like, daily need that you think that people could, if you were like at that hospital and you're like, wow, I really wish this was available here, or is there something that...
I will tell you that they asked that question in every department and they got it covered. I mean, if you haven't been down there, it is Disneyland at a hospital. I can't even describe. They've thought of everything. There is nothing that's not available. There's no question that's stupid. There's no question outside of the context of, we can't do that. I mean, almost every question that's asked of them, they make happen. So if you they just have a great system. And
isn't it great to say that everything is covered?
It is.
I know that they had guests on Guardian Kurt's show last month that were taking up a collection for rocking chairs. And so in the one department where they had the multiple babies, or it was the multiple twins and triplets moms, and they were the ones that were raising the money and giving the rocking chairs.
Nice.
And so I know that was in that department. You're rocking these tiny little babies, and they need that. And so that was just something that they had found that was kind of a need there for rocking chairs.
Well, let me tell you how. So being at a hospital, my mom's in the hospital. We won't go there, but going to a regular hospital and seeing a need or something that you want to give to, try to get it done in a regular hospital. There's so much red tape to get to the next person. I mean, if, for instance, let's just say that Abundant Life wanted to give a Bible and put a Bible in the waiting room of the hospital, local hospital.
Right.
To get that done, as simple as that, is it's almost impossible because they don't have, and it's not because the hospital doesn't want it and the staff doesn't want it and the directors don't want it. It's just that nobody can make a decision to make it happen, right? And so, and that's something super simple. So can you imagine rocking chairs at your local hospital? No. But Texas Children's Hospital has these liaisons in between the doctors and the nurses and the parents. And their whole job is to take a simple idea as that and implement it and make it happen immediately, as fast as possible, not 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and you have all these people going, no, I don't know if that'll be a good idea because if we rock too hard, the baby could fall, and then we're liable. I mean, it's insane, but that's what goes on at other hospitals. So they really have thought through that, and they probably have the best system for that, which is another, again, I think you lead by prayer at a hospital, amazing things happen, and I think that's why they're so successful.
Well, and I think that what's so beautiful at that whole complex down there is that you would think that there would be a lot of sadness, a lot of kids that are just laying in bed, and they're not.
No.
I also work for Southwest Airlines. I'm a flight attendant, and one of the things that Southwest does every month is provide services at the Ronald McDonald House. And they have those small Ronald McDonald House rooms in Texas Children's and what's the other hospital? But down there they have 2 little areas,
like MD Anderson.
And so we feed that area as well. So they have like a little kitchenette area, and then they have some rooms in case your guests, your visitor, the person you're visiting has to stay right there in the hospital with you, or you have to stay with them. Anyway, so that's also something great that's provided. But down over on Holcomb at the Ronald McDonald House, it's a party. I mean, Phil Pampolino, that's also big, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. He always DJs for us, and there's dance parties, and so that's something that they do every month. They also do it at the Galveston Ronald McDonald House, and it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different vibe down there. It's also the Shriners Burn Clinic there, so it's a whole different kind of ball game that we're having there. But anyway, it's not like a sad hospital.
No.
It's fun. We do Halloween every year, dress up in costumes. We go from room to room, and all the kids are so excited, and it's almost like they're having fun being in the hospital.
Correct.
Up there.
Yeah, I mean, and they make it like that. They try to make that like that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you might go up there at 1 a.m. in the morning, and it's still that atmosphere. It doesn't shut down. And that's amazing as well. So I mean, it's just a well-run, oiled machine. And
as a father of a child that had to be in the hospital, you probably realize that you have other children, right? So sometimes you're called back to home. You have businesses and lives that you have to continue, or you can't continue to support the child that's in the hospital, and you never want to leave them. You never want them to be alone or scared or have one moment without you. But up there, you're like, well, they're good.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100% on that. They didn't want to come home.
Yeah.
So and I don't blame them. I mean, it's just that they just make it such a great atmosphere.
So one thing that, you started kind of this conversation of all of these Lunar Rendezvous kings were very accomplished men, and I haven't done anything. Yet you've just gone to tell us that you've raised millions of dollars for this wing, for this part of the hospital down there at Texas Children's, the many lives that has been able to help. Because I mean, if you can't get dialysis, then you can't filter your blood, you can't do anything. Like you said, every form of cancer that may not be anything that has to do with their renal functions, they still have to filter out all of that poison from their chemos, and yet you don't feel like you've done enough. And that's a beautiful thing, but that's what we're saying. So Lunar Rendezvous is an organization that's able to bring people like you that have been doing things. You're out there doing things. And now you're able to do that, help this organization. I don't know how much money they raised here, but from 2005 until now, I couldn't find any year that was yet less than $107,000 that they gave away.
Right.
And I'm sure they have to keep some in reserve.
Correct.
So I'm sure they made more than that.
Right.
That there was some neat, like individual projects. You could see that maybe there was some kind of a education foundation that needed, this special thing. They don't
Right.
need it every year. They don't
Correct.
ask for it every year. But this year we need $10,000 because we're, funding this camp
Right,
or,
that's right.
whatever. And so it's neat that they can go to Lunar Rendezvous when they have those big needs.
Yep.
That they have something, and there's some that they support every year. Obviously, Lunar Rendezvous does give scholarships every year.
Correct.
So, and they are needs-based scholarships.
Yep.
So that's a fabulous thing that they do every year. But I just like the community to know that they are supporting education and the arts.
Yep.
So if they have a need that's like that, that's something that's just kind of special that you're like, oh, I don't know where to go or who could help with this, but I really want to do this for the kids or this for the city. That's what Lunar Rendezvous started. When Maggie Plendenike said, let's get together and have an organization, I want it to be bringing in arts and culture to this new city that's being formed around NASA. And Lunar Rendezvous has continued that cultural arts and education advancement. They also wanted this to be the best education that kids could get anywhere in the state of Texas.
Correct.
I lived in Louisiana, and my dad worked at NASA there, but my mom was like, yeah, we need to go someplace where there are good schools.
Right.
And so when he found a job at NASA here, it was a no-brainer. The schools are good, and now they're trying to get all this culture and arts and keep that. And that's 54 years that they've continued this positive influence, and that's a great thing to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well, 54 years of anything, is remarkable. And I think that once people get involved, they see how valuable the organization is. And that's why it's been around for 54 years and growing, right? It's not getting smaller, it's getting bigger.
Right. There used to be 20 girls.
Right.
Now there's like 70 and the guys as well.
Right. Yeah, it's huge.
One thing so let's just talk about the event a little bit.
Sure.
We've been talking about all the good they do, but it's a pretty cool event.
It is.
So we talked about that the girls, if you are a Lunar Rendezvous princess, you have to wear a white full-length ball gown and long white gloves. If you are a lieutenant, you have to wear a dinner jacket, tuxedo, which you don't see anywhere anymore.
These kids aren't even doing that at prom anymore.
Yeah, you don't even see that. And it always really irritates me at prom when they start wearing short dresses. You're like, no, this is like the biggest event besides your wedding you're ever going to get dressed up for. Don't wear a short dress.
Right.
Unless you're a Lunar Rendezvous princess.
Right.
And then it looks just like your wedding. But so, and then all the men that attend have to wear tuxedos, and all the women that attend have to wear full long dresses.
Yep.
So it is a very beautiful event. When you walked into that convention center and saw the decor, were you amazed?
Oh yeah,
It was
just
beautiful.
it's really the people that make it, right? So they do a great job. Volunteers, do a great job of decorating everything from outside the lobby to inside, and but it's really it's the people dressed up. All the girls in white, all the guys in white, and very formal. You just don't see that. When are you going to see that? We're invited to a lot of events every year, and we go to some very formal events every year. You still don't see that.
Yeah,
right?
and not
You don't
everybody
see-
not everybody conforms to that. Like we went to a wedding and the bride was very adamant about wanting to have a formal wedding. She wanted every girl in a long dress. And my girls fought me and I was like, this is what she wants. And they were like, oh, that's really pretty. It's formal, kind of short. No. She wants you in a long dress, and so we
Right.
fought with them. And of course, when we got there, was all kinds of girls in short dresses. My kids were like, I could have worn that. And I was like, yeah, but you're doing what she wanted, But you
Right.
still, when they say formal, you don't get it. But
No,
this
it's
event,
a great sight.
So they also have to dance. There's a father-daughter, son-mother dance, and you had to dance with the queen.
Yep.
Now, let me tell you, I want to honor you. Looked very handsome. Your family looked gorgeous. I don't think you were a dancer. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your
it's
wife.
not that I'm not a dancer, because I can dance. So one of the things that you may have heard or may not have heard was I was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. If you don't know what that is, it's usually an all-black fraternity. So I was one of the first white kids in college to go to all black fraternity, and I won 2-step contests with that fraternity, so I can dance, 100%. And I think still to this day, I criticize my brothers, and that the only reason they picked me to come to them was because I could dance. And I was white, so they used me as the white token. But anyway,
but your wife was a
she was a Cavalier for.
She was a Cavalier
for
Creek.
Yep.
And then she was with Kelly at University of KHEA, Cougar Doll,
yeah,
correct?
She was a Cougar Doll as well.
Doll.
Yep. And so, but they had us do a waltz.
Right.
Right? Well, I know what a waltz says 1, 2, 3,
right.
Up and down.
Right.
But they taught us this square thing.
This box there.
To
Viennese waltz.
To music. So if anybody from Lunar is listening, man, we need a different song that you can actually dance to and have some rhythm and get to, because that song you couldn't find there was no beat or
where
anything.
Where do I start my
right?
box?
Yeah, we don't
where do
know.
I start my box?
And then they taught us this box, and it may be because it's just so simple that no matter where you come from, you can do it, and it may look odd. But it was funny because I was asking her, hey, do you know that we're doing this box? And I think being crowned, she wasn't expecting to be, the princess or the queen. And she's got all these emotions going on. The last thing she wants to do is dance with me, this older guy that she has no clue who he is, but it's a tradition that we do that. And so we were dancing this box, but she was not there, so which was great. She shouldn't be there, mentally on trying to,
nice
to
have all those big
good.
emotions.
And then they were, we were kind of dancing to the side. Then we started too soon, and it was kind of like, but it doesn't matter,
But you know what?
Fun.
Nobody notices that. It's a beautiful moment. They get. Now, did she have that big long robe on when she was dancing? They let her take that off.
They finally let her take that off, which was kind of funny because this whole time I thought it was like pieced together, like at the neck,
right?
And that was it. But it actually has these things you put your arms through.
Oh, is that what took so long?
Yes.
Because I was like,
forever.
when they're crowning her, like there's all this stuff going on over there, and you're like, what are they doing over there? They're putting her arms.
Yeah, they're
it.
putting her arms through it, and the thing is about to fall apart. So again. Anybody from Lunar,
right?
I'm the first to pitch in towards a new gown or
a new
cape
robe,
or
yeah.
whatever,
I know,
whatever that is.
I told you I was trying to find out before the program started the history of this. I mean, it is quite the robe. It's, I don't know, is it velvet?
It's velvet on the inside and
it's a
satin
long,
on the outside. And,
it has quite an intricate design on it.
It does. That's falling apart. And unfortunately, it's probably been around for 30 years, I'm assuming, the same robe. And it's probably been in somebody's dashboard for about a month, and just it's yellow, So I'm like, when you put it next to white, it used to be white, but it's not white anymore. So I'm like, listen, let's cut out a section, put it on a new one.
So this is the campaign.
This is the campaign. We're starting it right now.
Robe.
Yes.
Because 2020 sounds like a good year to have a new robe.
Yes.
I mean, it is a beautiful robe. I would like to know the history of it. So anybody that's out there in Facebook land, now I apologize. We did have a little Facebook crash over here here at the radio station.
I'm not good on camera. I crash cameras all the time.
Is it you?
I thought it was just a radio show.
I knew it was you. We had to have Kurt come in here and fix it, but we were having Wi-Fi issues already to begin with, so I'm going to just guess that it's not you, Slade. I'd like to blame it on you, but whatever has been up of Facebook, if we're up there now, let's find out about how this robe came about, what its history is, and maybe without dishonoring whoever made it, whoever designed it, maybe it can be still the same design. Just get a new one.
Absolutely.
Slade's gonna work on the funding of that.
100%. I got that covered.
If we can get that done by next year, that would be so fabulous. Well, can you believe we're out of time?
Nice.
We're
That's
out
awesome.
of time. This is how quickly this radio show goes. So we have been so thrilled to talk to you today. We, meaning Kelly and I. Kelly
I see her over there.
And I, yeah.
She's there.
She is. And again, thoughts and prayers with you, Kelly. We love you. I'm so
Absolutely.
sorry you're in pain today. And
Sucks.
she has a bad sciatic nerve anyway, and so she's on ice and in bed and listening to us, I'm sure, critiquing me.
Yes.
She's probably got pages of notes of what I should have said. No.
Well, she's probably like
She would-
wondering where you went.
Yeah,
'Cause if
she's
she
like, wait, I was
following
watching
along
Facebook.
Yeah.
She's probably on her KHEA app, which, never fails. It's
There you
always
go.
fabulous. So make sure you have everybody, and they can listen to it later on if Facebook failed us, can catch it on the KHEA app. So we have just a couple minutes until this is going to be Bethel with Victory is Yours on KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. We've been here with Slade Lewis, which is the owner of Lewis Jewelers, you and your wife, Cindy. Tell me real quick, you have a whole family. We have a picture we'll put up with the Facebook Live of everybody that was there at the ball. Who all do you have?
So we had my son, Levi, who's 14, and my daughter, Whitley, who's 16, both going to Friendswood High School. So, and my wife, Cindy, of course. But we also had some cousins there as well, which is, pretty cool.
Oh, yeah,
and from different high schools. So it was really a fun event. We had a blast.
So did you dance the night away after the end?
Crazy enough, I couldn't. I gave myself till 10:30 p.m. To leave because I had a triathlon the next day.
Oh my gosh.
That I had to get up and leave by 4 a.m. to make it to the start on time. And so I'm a guide for Brandon Adame, who's blind. So it was my first triathlon with him as being his guide, and so I was like, man, if it was just me, I would have stayed and danced more because the band was awesome and we were just getting into it. But because of him, and I didn't want to fail him, I had to get up early, so we left around 10:30. But we won, so I justified my
fabulous.
3 hours of sleep.
Now, is that a fundraiser for something, or
No,
it's just so
he's
that he
just
can...
a competitive triathlete who happens to be blind and autistic, and for him to even get to the starting line is amazing. And we're super honored that he's chosen me to be his guide. So it was pretty cool.
So what does that entail? Do you run beside him?
Yeah, so we're tethered together in the swim.
Oh, okay.
And so I guide him on, because obviously he can't see where he's going.
Right.
And then on the bike, it's a tandem bike. So he's behind me, and we both pedal, and I guide the bike. And then we run together. We're attached by a little wristband basically at our elbows. So when we run. So I'm just his eyes, and it's a blast.
That is so beautiful. And that you did that after the ball.
It was pretty cool.
I didn't wake up till noon. You wouldn't catch me in a triathlon, though, because I can't run more than 5 feet without getting tired. So, all right. Well, this has been Riding the Wave with Angie and Kelly on 99.5 KHEA Radio and right here on the FM station in Lamarck. And we want to thank Slade Lewis. That was the king of Lunar Rendezvous. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next Monday. Oh, I hope we didn't do this too soon.